let's try this again. I started it once and it kicked me out. So we will see if this is going to work. This has been um, a crazy day. And Facebook changed. I've told y'all this before, but they, Facebook Lives have changed so much. And so um, it's a journey trying to figure out all of their many quirks and changes and things. So I'm going to pause just a minute and wait until somebody comments. Okay, Violet just did. I wanted to make sure that y'all could hear me and before I just started talking for no reason. And this is a repeat of our journey through Chasing Cupcakes, which is, if you don't know, is this book, Chasing Cupcakes by Elizabeth Benton. We went through it earlier, I think earlier this year, and it's such an incredible book with so much gut wrenching thoughts. And so I thought this would be a really good time since so many of us are kind of on a reset. It might be a good time to revisit. And then if you've been around the group any time at all, you have figured out by now that I love not time limits. That's not it at all. But I love when things just seem to work out in balance. I call them God taps. I don't believe in coincidence. I believe that my steps and your steps are ordered by God, and so I believe He has a plan. And I just love when I see that plan unfolding. And so I was looking this morning at my calendar and how busy the rest of this year is going to be with so many events coming up and deadlines and things like that. And hi, Connie. And I happened to look at the calendar and realize there are 15. Hi, Mary. There are 15 weeks left in this year, and there are 16 chapters in this book. So we may, if I remember right, there's 1 week that just didn't grab me like the others did. So we will probably double up at some point, but I'll give you plenty of heads up notice. And so if we time it right, we are going to finish this book at the end of this year. And one thing I want to encourage all of us, me included, is it's really easy to get, good morning, Terry, or good afternoon, Terry, Annette, all of you. It's real easy to get focused on and obsessed with and discouraged by a very small number on the scale. But here's what I want us to think about. If there are 16 weeks left in this study, if you committed to focusing on losing 1/2 of a pound per week, at the end of this study, you will be 8 pounds lighter. If you were to be fortunate enough to lose 1 pound per week, you could be 16 pounds lighter. Flip that. If you don't stick to your guns and apply discipline, you could be 8 pounds heavier or 16 pounds heavier. You and I get to control what the outcome is going to be in 16 weeks. It's all going to come down to how much am I and you are willing to do? How disciplined are we willing to be? I'm going to tell you at the end of this chapter, and I'm going to write myself a note so I remember to do it, um, about a lady who has been incredibly um, motivating for me, and I want to tell you about her journey at the end. Hi, everyone that's come in. Okay, let's get into it because, hi, Nana Shirley. Um, this chapter kicks off the book, and it has so much wisdom and so much that just it was gut wrenching. So I could show you. I don't know. I'm so bad at doing this backwards. I've written, I've drawn arrows, I've made asterisks, I've highlighted, I've done notes, I've written things like OMG, so many things, and I encourage you to do the same thing. And then next week we will share our thoughts on it. But just jumping in, this one starts with, this chapter is called The Hard Road. And it is hard. The road to, remember the old saying that says the road to hell is paved with good intentions? I think the road to health is paved with good intentions. We intend to do right. We intend to make the right choices. We think about it, we talk about it, we plan about it, we read about it, but do we follow through on it? That's where it gets hard. I love this quote, and it's the author is unknown, but it says, "Why do you always insist on taking the hard road?" One friend asked another. Confused, the friend replied, "Why do you assume I see two roads?" See, we get so tunnel vision on it has to be one way or another, or it can't be one. We get so focused on this is the only possible way to do this, whether it's Weight Watchers or cutting carbs or whatever plan we're laser focused on at the moment. We get so convinced that that's the only way to do it until we decide that it isn't. And we'll get to that in a little bit. But I'm just going to go through the chapter and tell you the things that jumped out at me. And I'm looking at the comments, so please feel free to jump in and share any thoughts that you have. She says, typically when we aren't, see if any of this sounds familiar to you. Typically when we aren't getting results, we think the only option is to fight harder and for longer. And I wrote out beside it, or eat less. I'm going to, like I always do, I'm going to bare my, I'm going to bare my soul to you. I have a lifelong history of, if it isn't working, I must be eating too much. So I need to eat less, or I need to eat less often, or I need to restrict, carbs or sugar or whatever. Instead of thinking, okay, maybe I need to tweak what I'm eating, and maybe instead of eating less calories, for instance, maybe I need to be focused on eating more protein, or I need to eat more whole food and less processed. Not necessarily less food, maybe it's what I eat that I need to change, and not be focused on making it harder and eating less. I love you too, Nana Shirley. Okay, and then I'm on page 44. She says, the way things have been is not the way they have to continue to be. If the way you've been doing it isn't working, why continue to do that? I'm not convinced. I think we are all so different in our makeup, in our um, genetics, in our DNA, in our health, in our activity level. So I would never tell you, yes, there are 9,200 different types of lipstick, but you can only wear this one brand. This one brand is the only one worth buying. I would never tell you that about laundry detergent, or, and if you hear a buzz, my dryer's on. I wouldn't, because we all have different approaches, we're all different. So I don't believe that tracking points is the answer for everyone. I don't believe low carb is the answer for everyone. But what I do believe is what it's going to come down to for all of us is we have to be burning off more fuel than we're taking in. Now, some of us will do better taking in less simple carbohydrates than others will. Some of us will do better eating more meat than others, and we all have to find that. But my point is, if you say you've been trying to restrict carbs, for instance, and you do good Monday through Friday, and then on Saturday you fall off of the wagon. I hate that phrase, but you fall off of the wagon and you eat carbs from sunup to sundown, Saturday morning to the time you go to bed, Sunday night, and you wake up with a sugar hangover, and you're angry and frustrated at yourself, and you look in the mirror and you say you're pathetic. Blah blah blah, all these horrible things that we say about ourselves. So that clearly didn't work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to restrict my carbs even more. That makes no sense. That's clearly not working long term. It's not even working short term. So let's stop going back to what isn't working for us. Let's find what will work for each of us individually and do that. But it has to be something that you can do consistently for the rest of your life. Okay? I have no desire to diet for the rest of my life. I have no desire to live in diet world any longer than I absolutely have to. And I want the same thing for you. So let's figure out, and I'm hoping by the end of this book, some of us will have broken free from diet mentality and will have broken out of the prison of dieting. Okay, when your path to change is taking you down the hard road, you repeatedly fall short of your expectations. I underlined this. Without a doubt, one of the worst feelings in the world is letting yourself down. How many times have you said, I can tell you, I can testify with my hand raised, how many times have you said, this time is it, I'm not going to fail. I'm rejoining, relisting, re-signing, restarting, all of those things, only to slip up, mess up, fall off the wagon, whatever you want to call it. And instead of blaming the wagon, we look at ourselves in the mirror and talk about how pathetic we are and how much of a loser we are. And I knew you weren't going to be successful because you never have before. I mean, we have these horrible conversations with ourselves, right? Okay. Very little is more frustrating than waking up determined to behave differently, only to find yourself right back in a past pattern you swore you wouldn't choose again. Anyone? I've sworn to myself so many times that I wasn't going to gain the weight back, or that I wasn't going to eat fill in the blank, or that I wasn't going to miss a workout. I swore to myself I wouldn't. And then I was so angry and discouraged and disappointed in myself when I didn't follow through on it. She says, these are all hallmarks of the hard road. I recognize it because I've been there. It's all too familiar. I lived on that road for decades, and I didn't know any other way. Though I intended for it to be the path to my goals, it brought me to places I really didn't want to be. She goes on to tell a little bit about her story and says, and this is the key, y'all. This is the big one. If you haven't underlined anything in your book, you need to go on page 45, underline this, highlight it, circle it, write it on your hand, whatever you need to do. But she says, I would have done anything to lose the weight except the work required. I would have done anything. I want to lose the weight so badly. I'm willing to do anything. Okay? I can't tell you how many times I have had people private message me, and I never mind when people do that. But, or come up to me at church or, you know, a social setting or something and say, oh, okay, I can't keep doing this. I'm willing to do anything to lose this weight. Tell me what to do. And I might say, okay, well, maybe we need to start with, let's figure out how many calories you need to be bringing in and track your calories every day so you have an idea of what you're eating. Oh, I can't do that. I can't do that. I'm too busy. That just triggers me, whatever. Okay, well, then you're not willing to do anything. Connie says, this time around, I'm reading the chapter and journaling about it each week, even asking myself the questions at the end. Follow through is hard, but I'm taking the other path this time. I so love that. And that's what it's going to take. We've got to stop saying we're willing to do anything and become willing to do anything. She says, I love this. Within hours, sometimes minutes of thinking about how desperately I wanted to lose weight and planning out all the changes I was going to make, I'd be eating Hostess cupcakes and Mexican food, followed by a pint of ice cream, all the while vowing to do better tomorrow and meaning it. I meant it every single time I said, okay, starting tomorrow or starting Monday. Okay, this time I mean it. But did I really? I did. I did mean it. But I wasn't willing to make the changes every one of those times. This one, see if this sounds familiar. If you have ever said these words, please put something in the comments, whether it's yes, amen, that's what we say at church, me, whatever. I'm curious. I used to tell myself that I would, quote, just get it out of my system, close quote. I'm going to pause there for a second. I just want to see, is it just me? Am I the only one who has said those fatal words a million times? I'm just going to go in the kitchen and eat all the bad stuff, or go through the drive-through, or whatever, to get it out of my system. That's what I thought. How did that work for you? How is that working for you? Because I don't know about you, but that didn't get it out of my system. It was still in my system. I still have those moments where, I think, oh gosh, whatever, sounds really good. And I know I don't have the room in my day for it. I know it's not good for me. I really don't need to be eating it. It's not going to get me closer to my goal, but I'm going to give myself permission to do it anyway and get it out of my system. And then tomorrow I can wake up and I won't think about it and it'll all be different. Magical unicorn dust is going to be sprinkled over my head while I'm sleeping tonight. And all of a sudden, magically tomorrow, I'm not going to want those things anymore because I ate it today. That's not true. It doesn't work that way, and we all know it. We need to get that quote out of our system, is what we need to get out of our system. Moving on to page 46, and I see my niester. I call her my niester. She's my niece, but she's like my sister. I love you, Connie. She says, I had to stop submitting to the familiar, convenient lies that kept me from creating change. I had to stop shrinking myself into a box of past patterns that I wanted so desperately to step out of. I had to stop living in a cycle of continuous deferment. Tomorrow, tomorrow, tomorrow. And I wrote, why? And she said, but never today. I've told y'all this before, I don't know why, but I love when I'm on the treadmill. I watch television to try to pass the time. And one of the shows that I got so obsessed with for a while was My 600-Pound Life. And I would get so frustrated at those people. They would go to see this doctor who's going to give them and help them lose massive amount of weights. And I mean, we're talking about people that this is probably their last chance. And they would go see him and he would say, I'm willing to help you. I'm going to give you the tools. Here is the formula. This is exactly what I want you to eat. This is exactly what I don't want you to eat. And I want you to come back in 90 days and you will need to have lost this much weight. And then we're going to do the surgery that's going to help you with this. Almost without exception, they would leave the doctor's office and say, okay, I'm going to start that tomorrow. So right now I want you to drive through the chicken place and I want to eat all of the horrible bad stuff that's gotten me here in the first place. And I would think, what are you doing? Why not start right now? And then I have to look at myself in the mirror and think, Pam, how many times have you said the same thing? I'm going to get it all out of my system. She says, I had to stop mortgaging today on promises for tomorrow. It's like the payday loans. But the cost tomorrow is way more than it would have been if I paid today. And then tomorrow I can't afford it, so I put it off even more, and the cost just keeps getting harder and harder and harder to pay. Remember at the first of this, just a few minutes ago, I said at the end of these 16 weeks, if you really applied yourself and you only lost a half a pound a week, you could be down 8 pounds. Or you could be up 8 pounds if you aren't willing to do those things. But what if that half a pound a week of gain became a pound? Well, now you're looking at 16 pounds at the end of this book. What if, and it's not unreasonable, what if you gained 2 pounds a week? Okay, now at the end of this book, your payday loan has become 32 pounds. See what I mean? The cost just keeps multiplying faster than we can keep up with it. Where if we would be content to just focus on consistently losing a half a pound a week, that may not seem like a lot, but in comparison to the cost of allowing the gain, it's significantly better and so much easier. Okay, let's see. On page 47, she says, I was in an unconscious, unexamined, and unsuccessful habit of valuing intensity over consistency. If we're intent and intense with our tracking and our meal planning and our promises to ourselves, consistently, we should consistently see losses. Not every week, but consistently. I'm going to try to find something on my phone if I'm talented enough to do this while we're talking. I found this the other day, and I was so, let's see. I'm not as comfortable with this. Let's see if this will. Okay, here we go. Let me see if I can scroll back on it. But while I'm scrolling, because it's going to take me a while, because this was quite some time ago. Okay, back in 2016. 2016 is when I went back to Weight Watchers for the last time. And I've told y'all the story before, and some of you weren't here. So, but I sat in the parking lot and cried because I didn't want to go in. I was so discouraged and embarrassed, and I had gained up to my heaviest weight. And I was just, I don't know. But I had to come to Jesus, talk with myself. Jesus had to talk with me. And sitting in my car that day, and I decided I'm going in and I'm going to do what it takes, and I'm not going to give up. And so I went back and I found my tracker for that time. And I'm just going to scroll through here and tell you, I went every week. I think I missed like 1 week in here, and I probably was sick. I don't know. But here's what consistency will get you. 1 pound, 1.4 pounds, 1 pound, 0.2, 1.8, 0.8. Then I went up 1.6, but the next week I was down 4.6, up 0.8, down 0.6, down 1.7, down 0.9, up 1.4, down 2.1, down 0.1, down 0.8, down 0.6, down 0.2, down 2.6, up 0.4, down 1.2, up 0.6, down 0.2, down 2.2, down a pound, down 1.2, down a pound, down 2.8. Almost every week I went down. I think there were 3 or maybe 4 times in that year and a half that I had a gain, but they were always followed by a loss. What I was so tickled to see, and what motivated me, is had I quit on the weeks that I had a gain, all of those weeks of losses would have never happened. It's the consistency. I didn't lose the same amount every week. I didn't have good weeks every week. Sometimes it was a 0.1. But the consistency ultimately paid off, and it will for you too. She was just, this is so true. I was distracted by every new diet and weight loss program. Jumping from one thing to the next was nothing more than a cycle of intensity and inconsistency. Hello, I own the t-shirt. I told y'all a couple of weeks ago, I went through, literally, I went through my phone, I deleted, I don't know how many Facebook groups. I unsubscribed to I don't know how many podcasts. I unfollowed Instagram posts because I want to be, for the next 16 weeks, laser focused. I don't want to be distracted by every theory and every opinion. I've proven to myself in the past what works. So now I just need to do what works. My what works may not look like what yours looks like, but I'm going to do what has worked for me in the past, and I'm going to do it consistently. Am I going to see a loss every week? Nope, I'm not. History has proven that. But history has also proven if I keep my nose to the grind and I don't let myself get derailed on those weeks that the scale has a little bit of a bump up, in the end, I win the prize. I want the prize. And the prize for me this time is lifetime of maintenance without having to live in diet mentality ever again. And that's what I want for you too. She says, I had to get honest about what didn't work, and you do too. You can't keep trying what hasn't worked before and expect different results. I was one of the people who could do low carb and gain weight. I don't know why, but I'm telling you, I could cut out carbs and gain weight every single time. I might lose, 3 or 4 pounds the first week, but after that, nothing. And it would be a bump in the scale, a bump up every week. And yet, when I would get frustrated, one of the first things I would do is say, well, I guess I need to cut carbs out. Why? That didn't work for me before. Why would I think it's going to work for me now? Okay, well, I guess I just need to give up sugar. Really? Tried that before. Didn't work. Do I need to reduce sugar? Yeah, because it's not healthy for me. But the mindset of I just need to give up all the things, whatever the things are, that didn't work before. What worked before is watching what went on my plate, watching what went from my plate into my mouth, moving my body, and just being consistent. That worked. So I don't need to keep looking for the magic answer. I don't need to keep listening to all of the different theories and their podcasts and their books and their YouTube videos. I just need to do what worked consistently. She gives little lists in here. What are the hallmarks, the signs of the hard road, and then the hallmarks of the easier road? Read those. They're eye-opening. White knuckles are red flags. If you're having to white knuckle through the day, you're not going to stick with it. If you're having to white knuckle just to get through that meal, I guarantee you in the very near future, if not the very next meal, you're going to cave and you're going to eat all the things that you feel like you were being deprived of. It doesn't have to be a white knuckle. It just has to be consistent. It needs to be sustainable long term. When you feel like you're fighting against yourself, you always lose. Not one time when I was going through these weeks that I was reading to you, I don't remember a single time feeling like I was deprived. I had to make some choices, but I never felt like I just can't do this anymore. If we wanted pizza, okay. If I knew I was going to eat pizza at dinner, then either we made our pizza at home, or I would have a lighter lunch, or I would save the points for it, or I would save the calories for it. Whatever, if you're tracking calories, if you're tracking points, I don't care. But you do have to be tracking something. You do need to be mindful of what's going into your body. There's only one team. You're doing this work for yourself. We're all an experiment of one. You have to experiment what's going to work for you. I can tell you exactly what I eat every day, and I'm happy to do that. But if you eat exactly what I eat, it doesn't mean you're going to get the exact same results. Your body is made uniquely for you. And so while I may be able to eat um, 130 grams of protein a day and lose weight, you may only need 100 grams of protein a day, or you may need 150. I don't know. You'll have to figure out what works for you, and I can help you. But mimicking me or me mimicking you doesn't mean we're going to get the same results. This is really good. She says, forget the intense, all in, white knuckle, willpower lifestyle overhaul you've been considering or wrestling with. Let go of the worry about how you'll stay on track next weekend. Instead, choose to be intentional about the progress you're committing to each day. One of my favorite scriptures is in Lamentations, and he talks about the faithfulness of God, and he says, morning by morning, your mercies are new. I get new supply of mercy every day. So I don't have to worry about tomorrow, and I don't have to fret about yesterday. I just have to focus on today, not tomorrow, today. That's all it takes. You're always just a few great choices away from feeling better, building momentum, and creating the change you crave. That's it. That's the hard road. Next week, chapter 2 is called Spinning Your Wheels, and it's a really good one. Before I let you go, I want to tell you about a lady that I started following a few years ago on Instagram. She's my age, and I don't know her. Not Instagram, I'm sorry, YouTube. I started following her because she is my age, and she's about my complexion. She has brown eyes, she has silver hair, the whole bit. And so I started following her for makeup and wardrobe tips and tricks and things. And she's a beautiful lady. And but she talked about how she needed to lose weight, and how styling was tricky because some of the clothes that she wanted to wear she couldn't because of her body shape and things, and she never showed herself, that I remember, for a long time below the waist. It was always from the waist up. But here about a year ago, and her husband's a doctor, they retired and moved to Florida, and she decided to get serious about her weight. She said, I was just tired of feeling tired and sick, and just not being happy with that part of her life. And so she said, I had done all of the different diets, all the different programs, and they worked until they didn't work, and she just was tired of goofing off and not getting results. So anyway, she tells about it, and if you're interested, send me a private message or something, and I'll tell you where to find it. But she said that she decided, because her husband explained the science behind to her, that he said it all comes down to, you have to be burning off more than you're taking in. That's the science, whether you call it points or calories or macros or whatever name you put on it. You've got to be burning off more than you're taking in, or you're not going to lose weight. So she started doing her research, and she came up with the formula that she was gonna follow, and it was simply, she did macros, but she said, she committed to X number of grams of protein a day and X number of calories a day. And then she also decided to start walking, and she walks her dogs, and then she also, goes for exercise goes for walks for exercise. Anyway, fast forward, but she did this consistently. She said, she didn't give herself the weekends off, because the weekends taking the weekend off wasn't going to get her to her goal any faster, and she wanted to get there. And so she took off Thanksgiving Day, and she took off Christmas Day. And other than that, she stayed true to her program that she had set up for herself. So I was listening to her the other day, and it's been just a little over a year. She's down 35 pounds. She showed, she was wearing a sleeveless top in her video, and I thought, she is looking tiny, like tiny. I could see her clavicle bones. I could see a definition in her shoulders, and I sent her a private message, and I don't do that very often because I don't know how people feel about that, but I sent her a private message and I said, I don't know if you're like me and you look in the mirror and you don't see what other people see, but I just wanted to tell you, you have done such an amazing job of rebuilding your body, and I just want you to be proud of that. And she wrote me back and thanked me for the kind words and stuff, and I thought, you know what worked for her? Was it the macros? That played a part in it. Was it the particular type of protein she ate? That probably helped. But you know what got her there? 52 weeks of being dedicated and consistent to doing what it was going to take. And now she's on the other side of this, 32 or 35, I can't remember, pounds lighter. And she said in this video, I'm now living in maintenance. So I can eat a lot more calories because I'm no longer having to try to lose weight. And she kind of laughed and said, and that feels amazing. That's what I want for us. That's what I want for us, is to get beyond the diet world, the diet mentality, the constant search. Whatever the number is that you want to see on the scale, what if, this one's hard for me, but what if our search was for a body instead of a number? What if scales just didn't exist? And we had to focus on whipping our body into shape so that we looked a particular way instead of we weighed a particular number. What would be different? How would that affect your mental approach to this? It would help me a great deal. My husband tells me all the time that y'all, if y'all see me scratching, I can guarantee you anytime you see me scratching, it's because I'm wearing a shirt that has a tag in it, and they make me crazy, and I forgot to cut this one out. The number has derailed me more times than I can count, because I'll do really good in my mind. I think I've done really good all day, and I'm excited to get up and weigh the next morning and see what my reward is going to be for being so good, and there might be a little bounce up on the scale, and it just messes with my head. Instead of that, if we focused on, I don't really care what number I get to. What I want to get to is where I can look in the mirror and say, you know what? I look pretty good for an old girl. That's where I want to get. So that's Chasing Cupcakes this week. I hope that you enjoyed chapter 1. We will meet again next Friday, and I'll let you know what time. I don't know until usually Wednesday or Thursday what my Friday is going to look like work-wise, but hopefully it'll be about this time. This is about the easiest time for me. I'll start dinner here in a few minutes, but anyway. I've rambled long enough. I won't keep you this long every week, I promise. But I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Spend some time thinking about what do you need to do differently to make, there's my dryer. What do you need to do differently to make this time different? All right? I love you all. Appreciate you. So many of you send me the sweetest private messages, and they just make my day. I hope you have a wonderful weekend, and I will see you next week. Bye, everyone.